What's up everybody, Just Brewing here. Welcome back to the home brewery for another grain to glass video. I started home brewing a few years ago with Northern Brewer's starter kit. It came with this bucket, a bottling bucket, and a 5-gallon kettle. You usually start with small amounts of grains, just a few pounds, and then supplement the rest of your grain bill with dry or liquid malt extract. Sometime after that, I started wanting to brew bigger and better beer, so I got a traditional 3-vessel system. I've got a 15-gallon mash tun, a 20-gallon hot liquor tank, and a couple different kettles that I can choose from depending on the batch size that I want to brew. Well, it really got clunky after a while. I mean, those 3 vessels, though they're nice to have, especially for those big beers, it's a lot to clean, especially in a garage, and I've only got so much space here. I do have more space than some others, but when it comes down to it, I don't want to spend a lot of my time. I mean, a lot of our time is already spent cleaning, and that's essentially twice as many things, 3 times as many things to clean. Not long after I got that system, I got this one right here. This is a Brewer's Edge mash and boil all-in-one electric kettle. These are really, really nice electric brew-in-a-bag systems that are easy to clean and very easy to use. Well, there's actually a lot of these to pick from, and during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, there were some deals going on. I decided to take advantage of that, and I've upgraded from this bad boy to this bad boy. This 10-gallon 120-volt Clawhammer system is essentially the equivalent of this. It's just a little bit bigger than the mash and boil. It's also got a little bit higher quality parts. Some of the spigots and quick disconnects are really, really nice to use. It's got a very, very nice pump, and it actually came with a really nice plate chiller. This is a very, very popular system, and it's getting more and more common amongst home brewers and YouTubers, brew tubers, if you will. There are a number of my colleagues out there that have this, and one, it just made me jealous. I really, really like the system. It looks good, it sounds good, and the beer that comes out seems to be pretty good, and I have to be able to put that to the test myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to max this out on the very first try. I did do a test run with just some water to make sure that the heating element was set up correctly and that there were no leaks. All of those tests passed, and I'm about ready to brew. I have in front of me about 20 pounds of grains. This is gonna be an Imperial IPA. It should clock in just over 10%, and we're gonna be in total putting in a pound of hops. And I'm really excited. I cannot wait to get started. I am a little bit behind, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get moving. On screen now is the grain bill that I'm following. Here for this 4.5-gallon batch, we're starting with 19 pounds of grains, and I'm gonna go ahead and mash in. And it's not a double or a triple IPA despite the amount of IBUs and despite the alcohol percentage. This is an Imperial IPA because your standard traditional double and triple IPAs, usually those beers have quite a bit of bitterness that they carry. This one is not going to have that much. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be 1 pound of hops in total for the beer, half of which are going in during the boil, but only 1 ounce is going to go in at the top of the boil. So I'm only going to have 1 ounce of bittering hops, and the rest are all going to be all flavor and aroma. So this should not be crazy bitter. So I'm not expecting a double or a triple IPA out of this. I think it's more accurate to call it an Imperial IPA in that there's a lot of flavor and a lot of alcohol content. So for those of you that are kind of curious as to why it's an Imperial IPA, that's why. We're going to be doing a 90-minute mash, and that's the longest mash I've ever done. Mostly because there's a lot of sugars to extract in this. I don't want to miss out on any of those sugars. I want this beer to be as close to the final product that I'm expecting. So I'm going to do everything I can to get it there. A 90-minute mash, 60-minute boil, and we're going to ferment this for just a couple weeks in my fermentation chamber. And I am super, super excited. I can't wait to see how this turns out. But in order to get there, we have to finish brew day. So yeah, we are almost at the brim of this kettle, which is awesome. I mean, the other one, this is only an 8-gallon kettle. This Clawhammer system is 10. So already I'm working with a bit more room. I couldn't even dream of doing this in a 4.5, almost 5-gallon batch. Could not dream of doing this on my current system. Now that the mash is underway, let's talk about hops. I'm going with 3 different hops for this, and at the top of the boil, I'm going to be going with Azacca, a very popular pale ale hop, mostly because of its woody aromatics, some spice that it offers as well, but it does have some sweet fruit and citrus characteristics as well. For the other 2 hops, I'm going with Citra and Cascade. They're a very popular hop combination, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to do. We officially have a boil now, so I am going to get my first round of hops in. This is 1 ounce of Azacca at the top of our 60-minute boil. The second round of hops is going to be another ounce of Azacca halfway through the boil for 30 minutes. It's at this point I want to sanitize my chiller. Since this is an immersion chiller, I don't want to just set it right on top of the heating element, so I'm going to reuse the grain basket here. I'm just going to get the grain basket back inside my kettle, set the immersion chiller on top of it, and then chill this down and get it ready for a Whirlpool. For our Whirlpool additions, we're going to be looking at 2 ounces of Citra and 2 ounces of Cascade for maybe 10 to 15 minutes at 170. After this, I am going to let the Whirlpool continue going so that it can chill down faster, but I'm going to turn the chiller back on, get it down to pitching temps, and then transfer it into my FermZilla. With 8 ounces of hops going into the kettle, we're going to be dry hopping with another 8 ounces. That's 4 ounces of Citra and 4 ounces of Cascade. I'm going to be dry hopping oxygen-free using sous vide magnets. I'm going to link a video here if you're curious as to how. I'm going to dry hop maybe with about 4 or 5 days left into fermentation. I'm going to kind of play that by ear, but once Krausen's on the way down, I'm going to be pulling the magnets off the FermZilla to drop these hops into the wort. For yeast, I'm going with Omega's double IPA ale yeast. So this should ferment all of this out. This is essentially rated for about 12% beer in a 5-gallon batch. Since this is a 4.5-gallon batch and likely going to be just right under 10% based on my gravity readings, this yeast should do fine. With the dry hopping out of the way and fermentation complete, it's time to keg, carb, and get ready for the tasting. And here we have it in a glass, Thrill of the Hunt, Imperial IPA. It's a dark golden color, it's a bit pale, and it reminds me a lot of a Belgian beer. On the nose, you get quite a bit of citrus, a little bit of pininess and grassiness as well. And on the mouthfeel and the flavor, a lot of those aromas do come through. You get citrus, a little bit of melon, and then a little bit of bitterness on the end, quite a bit more than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting no bitterness, but a little bit more than what I would prefer. All in all, the beer looks good, it smells good, and it tastes great. I do think this was a success. I think the beer, all in all, worked out really, really well, especially in this new system. I mean, I have no issues with the way it turned out. I don't always name my beers unless there's a reason to, and this time I definitely had a reason or two. A few weeks ago, I was a guest on The Hoppy Hour, which is a homebrew live stream. It streams every Wednesday and Thursday, and I've been on it a few times. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the awesome people in our homebrew community. And one of the more recent times, CH mentioned that he's going to be doing a collaboration with Clawhammer Supply. And I said, hey, that's cool, that's super cool, I wish I could go. And Garrett Hunt started donating just hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Over 2 live streams, it came out to almost $1,000 in donations in efforts to get me out to Asheville to collaborate with them. I'm fortunate enough to say that it's going to happen. With those donations and super cheap flights and all these other things, and Clawhammer Supplies, Kyle from Clawhammer's incredible generosity, the trip is actually going to happen. And I fly out, I want to say on the 21st of January, so probably a week or two after this video is uploaded, but you can guarantee that there's going to be some new beer, some better content coming your way, and it's all thanks to Garrett Hunt. So I named the beer Thrill of the Hunt. It's kegged, it's carbed, and it is ready to go. So Garrett, if you're watching, let me know where you're at, and I'm going to get some of this beer to you, along with a t-shirt, some stickers and things like that. I'm going to make it happen all because of what you did with your generosity, and I'm definitely going to be giving it forward. Garrett specifically asked that I donate the proceeds from all of the merch and things like that, all of these proceeds, and donate them to the Wounded Warrior Project. So I will definitely be doing that as well. So big shout out to Garrett Hunt. This one's for you. So about the Clawhammer Supply Brewing System. First and foremost, that thing is awesome. The system held up great. It was the first time that I put the system to use, and everything went without any real issues. I did test it, and since everything went fine then, I didn't expect anything to go wrong. The spray nozzle is amazing. The only thing that I kind of ran into, and it was my own fault, was maxing out almost any type of system like this, specifically brew-in-a-bag systems or electric brew-in-a-bag systems. Maxing them out, you do get a drop in efficiency. And I didn't really think about that. I read after the fact that can happen, but I really thought I missed something in brewing this beer. The starting gravity on this was supposed to be 1.104. That's 1104, and that's the absolute highest gravity that I would have ever achieved if it ended up happening. My actual starting gravity ended up being 1087, which isn't terrible. That still helped this get to be an 8.7% beer. So I would still call it an Imperial IPA, but it's not that 10.4 that I was expecting. So if I could do it again, we're probably going to take advantage out of the other system or just drop the volume a bit. When it came time to dry hop this beer, I did slide the magnet down and, I was able to dry hop oxygen free, no problem. When I went to go slide the magnet back up, I didn't think about how the hops would absorb so much of the beer, and it essentially just the magnet, it fell down and it went right back into the beer. Not that that's a bad thing, but it did kind of, there's a lot more hop flavor than I was expecting, especially as it lingers, and usually that goes away after some time in the keg. It's probably been in the keg almost a week now, actually just over a week now. Give it a little bit more time and it will mature, and I think that's when it's gonna hit its peak potential. When it came down to chilling this beer, that was kind of the only gripe that I had while using the system. I have already had a Jaded Scylla immersion chiller, and the chiller is amazing. I love this thing. And the Clawhammer system came with a plate chiller, and the plate chiller actually works really well. I tested it on a different beer maybe a week or so later, and it works really, really well. But my Jaded Scylla does work a little faster. I do wish there was a better way to chill in this system using an immersion chiller. I don't really know what that would look like. The only thing I can think of is I've seen some heating elements where the coil kind of bends around and is closer to the kettle itself opposed to going through the middle. I don't want to set this on top of the heating element, so I made sure to use the mash basket, and I can do that again next time. It's not as seamless as I'd like it to be. And I'm probably the only person using an immersion chiller in this system anyway. So it's probably, not the biggest thing to try to upgrade, but it would be cool to see maybe a different type of heating element for the system, maybe one I could replace so that I can for sure use it with an immersion chiller, because right now it's not built that way. All of that being said, this is just kind of my opinion on the system. I've only used it once at this point, so I'll probably put together a full-on review maybe after 20 or so brews on it, but really, these are my initial impressions. So there's really not a whole lot I can tell you about the system just yet. I like it, and so far, that's all I can tell you. Thanks for viewing, Just Brewing. Thrill of the hunt.